Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Yes She Can project. I am so happy today to be joined by the gorgeous Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Hi. You say gorgeous, you mean very sweaty and warm. But
It
yeah,
is sweaty and warm, but anyone who's watching or listening, it's ridiculous today, isn't it?
it's a warm, sticky day.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, could you give me a brief introduction into who you are and what you do, please?
I'm Natalie Gray. I am a singer, songwriter, originally from Reading. I now
Mhm.
live in London and have done for a very long time.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm an artist. My music is on Spotify and iTunes and TikTok and all those sort of things. I mainly do synth pop, which is like 80s fun.
it's such a cool vibe.
Yeah, it's a bit random, isn't it? But it's really
Yeah.
fun. Someone said to me, they're like, "Oh, your sound is as if like Madonna's old Immaculate album had a baby with the 1975." And I was like, "Do you know what? I'll
I'll
take that."
take it.
So that's me, and I'm dog obsessed and cake obsessed, really.
Oh. So did you grow up in like a musical household? Was music something that was always there or?
Yeah, kind of. My parents love music. My dad plays guitar, and he was a comedian like back in
Oh,
the day.
wow.
I mean, like when they decided to have a family and all that sort of stuff, they did the whole like got real jobs. Um, so I think like when we were kids, music was very much it was always played in the house, and like
Yeah.
they'd always have parties and music was there, and my dad's guitar is always about, and he's always playing stuff. Like I always
Oh,
say, like I didn't grow up on nursery rhymes or anything like that. My dad made up songs when we were kids about like,
oh.
there's one particular song about a beetle that gets
Mhm.
into some Cocoa Pops. It's ridiculous. Um, it's very my family. But yeah, so I kind of grew up with like a lot of 80s music because my
Okay.
dad was always like he loves the Eagles and like
Oh, same.
yeah, like Eva Cassidy and all that sort of like kind of folky rock. And
Yeah.
then my mum was always like she loves a good boy band, so like Bay City Rollers, she was a huge fan of.
Okay.
Or like Westlife and stuff like that. But then
Mhm.
she is a huge fan of like the big power ballads and like the big voices like Whitney Houston and
Yeah.
Celine Dion and all those kind of people. So growing up, I was very much all the music everywhere. And I played piano when I was a kid. My nan
Gosh,
bought me a piano.
multi-talented, aren't you?
Oh God. Yeah, my nan brought me a piano when I was little, and she used to love like just sitting with me when I'd like make up silly songs. So I think if I'd turn around to my parents, it's like I'm going to be a teacher or like a scientist, they'd have been really surprised.
Shocked.
Yeah, I was one of these that like I sang everything. Like I was quite
Oh,
annoying. Everything was a song. Disney was always on in the background. I was always singing along to Disney songs. And my sister is an actress.
is she?
Yeah, so like, bless my parents. They had no hope of being rich.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, it was around us, but it wasn't like my parents aren't musicians or anything.
Okay.
They have adult jobs.
Yeah. Grown-up jobs.
Grown up jobs. They are very grown up. Well, actually, I say that in their jobs they are. They're absolute children, like behind the scenes, but in life they seem to be adults. So
Oh, so
yeah.
could you pinpoint, Natalie, any particular artist that you were listening to when you were a child and growing up that you really, really drew your inspiration from?
um, Probably people like Madonna.
Yeah.
I was a huge Madonna fan as a
Oh,
kid, especially like the album Immaculate. It was very much she pushed boundaries. Everyone always spoke about her. Obviously, these
mhm.
days before social media in the 90s. And she was always around and she was always like wearing these
Yeah.
crazy outfits and like I loved that. And I was quite a weird kid. So looking up to people who kind of pushed the boundaries and had people speaking about them and sometimes not in a good way and sometimes in a good way, like I loved it. And I loved the whole fun of her music. So I think definitely as a kid it was definitely Madonna and Michael Jackson. And that's kind of stereotypical like answer, but I used to watch like the Thriller video over and over again. I mean, it terrified me, absolutely terrified me as a kid. I'd get to one point and be like, nope, okay, I'm out. But I loved the whole like showmanship of it. And
Yeah.
then like I kind of then moved on as I got a bit older to like the Spice Girls and Pink,
Yeah.
because again they're very much out there, they're very much their own individual people and
Mhm.
thinking about girl power. And then
And spreading a real message, weren't they? It was
absolutely,
such a
yeah.
movement,
Oh,
wasn't
it
it,
really was.
Spice
I think
Girls?
I think we didn't really as kids really notice it.
No.
Like whereas actually, if you think about it now, there was 5 very individual and different women, all very strong women.
Yeah.
And I love going back and watching old interviews with them, and they like just shoot down interviews who are rude or say things, and I'm just like, yes. So I kind of grew up on her and Pink. I loved Pink because she again is a showman. Like her documentary, if anyone hasn't watched it yet, oh my God.
I don't think.
When it got released, me and my partner literally sat in our flat and watched it about 3 times on repeat because it's just
that good.
Oh, it's so inspiring, and she's so incredible, and she's such a boss woman. Like, she's got her life together and she's in control of it. And I love that. Like, there's no like timidness. It's all just like, this is what I want and I'm going to work to get
No
it.
apologies either, is there? Because I think we've been kind of conditioned to apologize for wanting to achieve great things through society, haven't we?
I mean, this is quite controversial. Well, it's not really, but to have that, growing up, it was very much like, my family are very loud and liberal and like amazing. But then I would go to other places and it would be like, women shouldn't have opinions, or like, wow, she's quite forceful. No, she's confident. And actually kind of learning that through like training and college was very much like getting shot down and making myself smaller so that other people could bring you out of your shell. And actually, I don't need to be brought out of my shell, but if you need to feel that way so you're not intimidated by me, or like, I became quite shy because I was always told like, you can't be that out there and you can't be that confident. So I ended up, you do the reverse. So I looked at artists like Pink who didn't care. I was like, one day I'm gonna do that.
Bless you. So how did you go from that girl being so inspired and influenced by these artists? How did you go from her to currently on huge stages supporting Rudimental and the Hoosiers? Can you tell me how you got there?
It's still really strange. Like, I'm literally just like, I'm still living such a high from that weekend. Like, even like before we jumped onto this call, I was like editing some videos, like TikToks and stuff, and I was like, oh God, I actually did that.
That was me.
So I kind of obviously told my parents I wanted to do music, and I learned instruments and did that sort of stuff, and I was winning some school plays and all that stuff. And like growing up, we didn't have a lot of money and that kind of stuff, so I would always go to like the community kind of centres to do dancing on a Saturday morning. And then I actually got into Italia Conti, which is like a musical theatre school in London.
That's like huge.
Yeah, I got in when I was 18. So I went into my A-levels, and then I got into Conti's, and I got a full ride. So I got like a full Dada, which means they pay for everything.
Like a scholarship.
Okay. Which was great because, bless my parents, they kind of sat me down. They're like, we can't afford to send you, and we are. And I was like, I would not want anyone to go into debt for this. Like, make your own path kind of thing. And then I remember getting the phone call that I had this scholarship, and it was just, there were so many tears. And I went to Conti's, and I had a very strange experience at Conti's. I wasn't a favorite. I had a very select group of friends, and it was quite a strange experience. And it very much taught me to stand on my own 2 feet and stick up for myself. And that just because someone is different doesn't mean that's a bad thing. But I left Conti's very much with an attitude of, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Okay, so it could have gone reversed, like it happened when you were a child, and it could have pushed you inwards.
And like, I very much went into Conti's being this quite shy, timid, very scared to get up and sing. I remember talking to someone and being like, I really hope I never get chosen for a solo, because that's terrifying. And like I remember shaking uncontrollably when like it was audition season. So but then I got a really hard skin through Conti's, I'll give it that. And I left, and kind of it was a bit of an explosion of just going like, I am sick of suppressing who I am and apologizing for me, or comparing myself, or just because I don't sound like this or do this or look like this, or I'm size 4 or whatever. So I started auditioning for musical theatre and realized that I love it, and my heart is still there, and I would absolutely go back into a show, but it wasn't for me in that moment. And I was starting to write music with a friend who needed just someone who was into music. It wasn't like I'm going to be a singer-songwriter. He was very much like, I need a singer, and if you because I write a lot of poetry, he's like, if you fancy joining. Ended up working with him loads and realizing I love this. I love being able to express myself. I love being able to turn up in a onesie and no makeup on and no one says anything. And then I started doing open mic nights and realizing, actually, I love this. And I recorded a song and sang it a few times at clubs and had people singing it back.
Yeah.
And the feeling is unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And I was like, this is what I want.
It's like, that's what makes your heart sing.
And it's being me. It's not being a character. And like I said to you before we jumped on the podcast, I'd done a few shows and I'd done a few tours, and I realized I love touring. I absolutely love being on the road. But standing up on stage and getting a round of applause for playing a part is a great feeling. Yeah. But going on stage and singing something I've written that's my heart and soul, and getting like an applause or even one person coming up and saying they loved it is just
beyond words.
Yeah, it makes it's such a weird feeling, because it's almost like it makes me feel sick with adrenaline and like, oh my god, like I've just eaten a whole bag of pick a mix kind of feeling.
Damn you, Haribo.
Literally just straight into my bloodstream. So yeah, I started then kind of releasing music. I got involved with Pride in London, and because I'm a huge ally for the LGBT plus community, so I started kind of like getting involved with them and like a few of their singing competitions, and then kind of just like the ball just started rolling, and I haven't stopped since.
Wow. So yeah. how many years has that been, like, from leaving Conti, would you say?
Well, I left Conti's 10 years ago.
Okay.
Which is terrifying.
Sorry.
Literally, like, I'm like, oh my god, 10 years ago. So I left Conti 10 years ago, and I kind of did the whole musical theatre thing for a few years, and then I wrote my first song and released it in 2014. And I was still on tour of a musical at that point, so I wasn't really like plugging the music. And then I got a management company. I was in talks with a few labels, and like it kind of got to about 2016, and I was like, this is the one. This is what I'm doing. And then like I officially left musical theatre in my own head about 2 years ago, when I signed.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah, quite recently that happened.
Gosh.
I kind of signed. I mean, I say I officially left. I mentally had checked out. I'd stopped going to auditions, and I'd found every time I get an audition coming in, I was terrified, and I was like, I'm good enough to do that, but this is what I want.
Yeah. Something was pulling you in the other direction.
Yeah, and I was prioritizing sessions and prioritizing my music, and like money was just completely going to music. Like my agent was like, you need new headshots, you need a new like show reel, and I was like, no, I'm going to promote this single. So yeah, it's kind of been the last few years have been very, it's now or never kind of attitude of just like,
let's do it.
This is what I want. Let's stop making excuses and stop. You only get to live this life once. And I think kind of COVID taught us all that it can go in a heartbeat. So yeah.
How difficult, because obviously the industry that you're in is very much in person. How difficult has COVID been for you to take that kind of face to face with the audience away?
Yeah, it was really hard. I did a few Zoom gigs. I really hope never come back.
Oh no.
It was so weird. I did a festival. It was Boohoo Man did a huge festival, and so excited when I got asked to feature on it, and people like Joel Corey were playing, and it was huge, and it was like, yeah, it's over Zoom, and I was like, what does that even mean? And literally I set up like in my garage. I covered my whole garage like wall with fairy lights, got ready like had my ring light on, performed the song, and then it was like, thanks, on to the next artist. And I was like, and now I'm just gonna go back in the house and
my fairy lights down.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, because I'd actually locked down with my parents. That's where
Okay.
it was when lockdown happened, me and my sister, because we were going on holiday the next day.
Right.
Boris Johnson did that Resident Evil announcement.
Oh,
It was like
no.
the end of the world. Um, so me and my sister were like, sod going back to like our tiny little London flats.
Yeah.
Stay here. So I walked into my parents' house, and my sister had again dressed up as if she was at a festival and was partying to my set upstairs.
Oh, bless.
Very funny. So yeah, it was really weird, that kind of interaction. I missed gigs so much. Like my first gig back was I supported Rag and Bone Man.
Oh, my
Um,
God.
I've never been that scared in my life, because I
Oh,
was like, do I remember how to do this? Will I still love it? Will
oh,
people still like me? And it was amazing. And I cried all day.
oh.
I was just like, there's people here. I can actually talk to you. That was really fun. But during the whole lockdown, I was really lucky because I got sponsored by a company called Isovox.
Okay.
I kind of forced it, really. So they, if you haven't, no, for you and for everyone listening, if you haven't heard of Isovox, it's an incredible company, and they build these boxes basically, and it's like a foam box that goes over your head, and it's got like a mic stand underneath it, and it's completely soundproof.
Oh, my
And
God.
it's portable. It's amazing. And
Wow.
I kind of found them online late 2019 and was like, I could do with that.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't afford it. It's so expensive. So I wrote a song
Okay.
called I Need an Isobox.
Oh, my God, you
And
didn't.
I then employed my two flatmates to create this music video of us mucking about, silly outfits, dancing around. At one point I'm sat on a hob while my flatmate's trying to cook, and it's ridiculous. Like there's a check it out, it's on YouTube, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, my God, I have to.
And I sent it to the CEO of Isobox, and I just got this Instagram message laughing, like a voice note of him just absolutely wetting himself laughing.
Oh, my God.
This is the best video we've ever been sent. What color Isobox do you want?
Wow.
Yes.
But how creative is that of you? First of all, to even have the idea, but second of all, to do a funny video as well.
Well, you know, I mean, my boyfriend would vouch for this. I make up songs about everything. There is a shower song, there is a cake song, there's a dinner song, there's an Are You Okay song.
Oh,
I love a little jingle.
yeah.
This will goes tits up. I'm gonna write jingles for someone because that's all I do. Apparently, as a kid, it's all I did as well. So I literally just started singing that I need an Isobox, and
Oh,
my
my
flatmate was
God.
like, "Oh, you should write a whole song," and I was like, "Challenge accepted."
Okay.
I was like, do you know what? Even if they don't like it, I found this really entertaining. And
Yeah.
then so they sent me this incredible Isobox, and I wrote another song called "I Love My Isobox."
Oh, my God.
Again, it's on YouTube, but it's ridiculous. It's all like cartoon. It's so
That is
cute.
amazing.
So I during lockdown had this gorgeous Isobox,
Okay.
and bless my parents, I converted our garage, which was like my dad's like games room and like storage place, and it became my like kind of
Isobox pod.
yeah, it just became my kind of, whenever I'm stressed, I just went in there and just sang or like wrote, and like bless my dad, he covered it in fairy lights because obviously I love fairy lights. And he was just like, he got me a little fan and a little heater, and it was just very cute.
Oh.
So actually during lockdown, I gave myself a structure which helped me.
Okay.
I would get up in the morning, I would do a workout with my sister, I would hang out with my dog, have breakfast, go into the studio. And
Okay.
then even if I was just writing something or just like recording covers or even just singing for fun,
Yeah.
that kept me mentally going. And actually I ended up writing some really cool music during that, which got signed, and kind of rolled onto other things. I mean, there was absolutely days where I just like cried in bed for like everyone did. But it was really hard, like talking to artists who are a bit further along in their career, who have a big record deal, so they were living off that money, or like they had other things coming up, and I was like, I feel like I'm at the stage where things are going well, and then it's like, stop.
Yeah. What a shame.
Yeah, now you're going to be 2 years older and nothing has changed. But actually, I cannot complain about COVID. I had a great time with my family. I'm really close to my family anyway. My dog loved it.
I bet.
she's got all the cuddles 24 hours a day. Yeah, so it was really challenging, but at the same time, like, it kind of gave me a lot to write about.
Yeah. And do you think you're the kind of person who needs that kind of routine in order to stay on top of things?
Yeah, I need like a goal. I always need
Okay.
little goals. I always have like to-do lists, and like I think it's kind of the same for a lot of performers. We're very much like I always say, like, all performers I feel like have some sort of ADHD.
Okay.
Because we're just constantly like, my brain is always doing this. It's
Yeah.
I'm always around, and I'm always concentrating, or
It's the creativity, isn't it? It
yeah,
just goes into
and
overdrive.
like my partner will say, like, we'll be out having dinner, or yesterday we were away for our anniversary, and I literally was like 2 seconds and just started writing something that had randomly popped into my head because of something I'd seen, and he was like, cool, fine. And I was like, back in the room, what were you saying? So like, for me, as long as I've got like goals, and I've got like, right, today, as long as I get up and do this,
Yeah.
that's that completed, and then whatever anything else happens is a bonus. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a weird thing with like vision boards, and
Okay.
the book The Secret, I don't want to give it as more publicity than it already has, but I don't believe in vision boards,
Yeah.
mainly because I think you are constantly looking at things you don't have, and you are,
Okay.
if they don't come true, you are very much then aware that, well, that didn't happen. And I used to be really into it, and I used to be like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then it comes to the end of the year, and I'd be like, well, I haven't done that.
And then
Yes,
it makes you feel shit.
yeah, and you kind of like disconnect from all the amazing things you have done because
Yes.
you haven't done this, and it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
actually, you've done all of this. And
Yeah.
I got to a point of, I was kind of not taking for granted, but just being like, yeah, but that's only that. I wanted that, and I didn't get that, and it's really hard. So for me, I like to have just little goals of, even if it's like, I want to write a song about this subject, or I would like to work with this person, or I'd love someone to hear this song. So they're kind of very reachable goals, but they're also on the path to my goal, my main goal, kind of thing. Because I think happiness is always the main,
The first goal.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
as long as I'm happy making music, then it's fine. Life's
Yeah.
good.
And I think it can become almost like a negative, toxic way of thinking.
Yeah.
And then draw you into, like you say, then you get blinkers on and you can't actually see the amazing
Yeah,
things along the way.
absolutely. And you do
I've
tend to,
not heard of that book though.
The Secret
No, I've not heard of that.
is, yeah, she's I can't life remember the name of the woman who wrote it. She's written a bunch of books that are all about like law of attraction and like being
Okay.
positive. And I'm like, 100% I agree with being positive and like trying to look on the good side. And I do agree
Mhm.
with the whole thing of, you know, it's like when you stub your toe and you get out of bed and you go, oh, it's gonna be one of them days, and then it
Yeah.
is one of them days because you've
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like you've set your intention for
yeah,
it to be one of those
I
days.
100% agree with that. But then I speak to friends who are very much into The Secret and the magic, and it's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
on yourself for you to be constantly being positive and constantly being like grateful for things you haven't got yet. And sometimes we all just need a day where we eat cake and cry and moan, and that is okay.
That's
That's
real.
absolutely fine. Yeah, of course. Like, we've all got one of them friends that's happy and positive all the time. And
Yeah.
we want them to go away for a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally normal. So I do, the book is very much, it talks about like always looking on the bright side and always being positive. And if you're not, then you won't get the good things that you want in your life. So therefore it's your fault that you don't get them.
But then that makes you feel like a failure. And then I think that's
Absolutely.
too negative for you to be taken
Yeah,
on if you're not in a positive place at that time.
absolutely. And like, it works for some people. I know loads of people who live by it and they're really happy and that's what they want in their life. And
Mhm.
absolutely, very much you do you. Like,
Yeah.
if that makes you happy, for me personally, it doesn't work because
Yeah.
I'll put on my vision board like world domination, and that might not happen. So, and what is world domination for you might not be for me. So it's all very each their own. And I kind of,
totally.
however you can keep going is my kind of mantra in life.
Yeah, definitely. So aside from your music, Natalie, you also run a podcast with one of your best friends, Farah, called Take Back the Beat. Can you tell us a bit more about how that started, what it's about? And you actually went on tour.
You
You did
did.
a few tour dates, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. That happened this year. That's mad.
You're like, are you sure?
Like, yeah, that did happen. So Take Back the Beat kind of came about because me and Farah have been best mates for years. We met doing tribute work.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, we used to do lots of like function bands together and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
We always like, oh, this is really fun. And during COVID, we would send each other 20-minute voice notes on
Oh,
like
oh, I
we'd
love a voice note.
love a voice note. And we would go for like our long walks because she's from Doncaster, so she's other end of the country. So we don't really see each other on gigs. And obviously with COVID, we weren't seeing each other at all. So we'd send each other 20-minute voice notes, and 9 times out of 10, they were just rambles of just like blah, blah, blah. And
It
like,
shows how good friends you are that that's
yeah,
okay. You know,
absolutely.
don't you?
Like occasionally you just put it onto double time and be like, oh, she just needed a moment. Like there's a famous voice note in our WhatsApp chat that we always laugh about where I literally was de-icing my fridge, and
Okay.
I'm just talking about the fridge for literally about 15 minutes before I actually get to what the problem is that I'm talking to her about. And we just joked about it being like, these are mini podcasts, but they make me feel better. And both of us are survivors of domestic abuse and violent attacks. And kind of one of the main things of these voice notes was us talking about that, because in lockdown, Farah particularly was quite recent out of this domestic abuse relationship, and everything kind of came back because I think with a lot of people in lockdown, we had to face our demons, and we
There was
weren't
nowhere else to go and we weren't busy enough. It was hard, wasn't
absolutely
it?
like something like I got diagnosed with PTSD, God, about 6 years ago now, and things that I felt I was dealing with it weren't.
Mhm.
They were just plasters. Like if I was knew I was having a panic attack, I would see if a friend wanted to go for coffee and then chat about them, or I
Okay.
would go to the gym, or I would
Yeah.
do some work. Whereas actually these are just plasters. I'm not dealing with the problem. And
Yeah.
that was so much with Farah. She was kind of discovering these insecurities and these things that she hadn't dealt with. And so she would message me and be like, is this a normal thought or am I going
Oh,
crazy? And
yeah.
then I'd be like, oh no, I've had that and this and that. And then I would have
Mhm.
moments where I go, oh my God. And I was like, this helps. This support system helps. And we decided, because she had just released her first EP. Well, she just written her first EP about her abuse. And it's an incredible EP, like absolutely, it's called Awaken. And it's how she's done it is each song goes through a stage in her relationship. So it's the story of the relationship, which is brilliant. And she said to me, I'm going to release this. How do we do it? And I had this idea, and I was like, what about if instead of releasing it as an EP and just a one off, we make it a thing and we make it a women's movement that Sarah Everin had just passed. And it was really something that shook me. I was held at gunpoint in 2006, 2007, 2006, one of them years. I tend to block a lot of it out. But when the whole Sarah Everin thing happened, I was very much triggered by it because it brought up a lot of what I had been through. And obviously I was very lucky in what happened to me. And I was like, but I could so easily have not have been. And I'm sick of kind of talking about women's rights and talking about how terrified I am to go for a run and not doing anything. So I said to Farah, I was like, why don't we do events, raise money for Women's Aid or Refuge or someone, make a difference with your EP? To which she turned around and was like, well, if I'm doing it, you're doing it. And I was like, I don't speak about what I've been through, only to close personal friends. And even then, even Farah said to me, she's like, I don't know the ins and outs of what you've been through. I only know bits. And I was like, yeah, that's a reason. And we decided to take this big leap together and set up Take Back the Beat, which we got in partnership with Women's Aid, which is amazing. They are fully on board. And we started the podcast. I actually spoke to a friend of mine who is a music booker, and he had a personal experience himself with the situation. And he was like, I want to help make a change too. So he's been incredible. Like, master shout out to Simon from UMA. He is amazing, so supportive. And he was like, right, let's do a music tour. And we literally sat in my kitchen and we wrote down, this was the beginning of the year, this was January this year, wrote down dream venues and then venues that like we hadn't really thought of, but actually that would be really cool. And then venues that we were like, okay, they'll probably take us because we're new. And one of the dream venues is a place called Amira in London, which is a huge venue that I'm obsessed with. And the first phone call we had after we hadn't, I think we'd released like one episode of the podcast, Simon going, Amira have offered you any date you want and they will support you and help you and do PR and whatever you need. And we were like, what? What does that mean? So in kind of in line with doing the podcast, which is where we talk to survivors, we talk to family members, we talk to charities, anyone who has a story to tell or an experience with, unfortunately, domestic abuse or violence against women, we talk to. And the music events were a fun release. So Farah performed her EP, I performed my music with my band, and we had a few like big headlining artists that came down, and every penny went to Women's Aid to help survivors. So that's kind of what Take Back the Beat is. It's just a safe space. We wanted to create a safe space for anyone and everyone. It's not just for women, we've had men come on the podcast talk about their experience with being in an abusive relationship. It's also, for me personally, like a few of the episodes where I talk about my own experiences, like my mum listened to my stories and she would then go to me, I understand now. I understand why you do that because of that, or I knew that, or wow, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with it. Even my partner who listened to it is like, oh, okay, so that's why, and right, okay, we need to make sure this doesn't happen. And it's just kind of opening up people.
It's like a ripple effect then, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we just want people to feel safe. And
yeah,
the great thing was that like the events we did, we had a lot of survivors come and talk afterwards, and we had a lot who would just listen to the podcast, or people who were on the podcast and wanted to support it. And it's making it normal, making it no longer a taboo to say this happened to me, and I'm not ashamed. I'm a bit wounded by it, and I'm learning how to deal with it, but I'm not ashamed of what happened. And even so I supported Rudimental the other week at Penfest, and I sang, a bit crazy. I'm a huge so it was the Hoosiers feeder Rudimental and me. Crazy.
And rightly so, Natalie.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of all of them, so like I was just living my best life. But I sang my song Fire, which I wrote about my experience, and I had a few women come up to me afterwards and say thank you for admitting that you are a survivor to all these thousands of people and making it nothing that you're ashamed of. That's made me feel better about me. And I was like, great, like team, like why are you ashamed of it? Like didn't, like, it's fine. We grow and we move and we become who we are. And that's kind of what Take Back the Beat is. I want it to be a safe space for anyone. And also there is a bit of fun to it. There's an element of it. It is just two best friends like occasionally ripping each other for silly decisions.
Biscoff.
There's a lot of Biscoff chat. We love Biscoff. I mean, this week's podcast, we do a massive shout out to hay fever tablets. Like it's all a bit, there is fun in jest kind of things as well as a serious subject, because we don't want people to listen to the podcast and be sad or be triggered or feel like they have no hope. We want them to come away and go, wow, like there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way of this being normal. And
it's a living proof of that.
Yeah. And it is something that you need to kind of, it's such a taboo subject. I've had it in the industry where people say to me, oh, we can't really support the political movement or your views. And I'm like, I don't see women's safety as a political movement. I see it as a fundamental right.
Yeah.
Like the fact I can't go for a run is a human right that I am denied. But that's my personal opinion. And it is in the industry a lot. There is a lot of abuse. There is a lot of things people don't talk about. And we're all kind of sick of it.
I'm not surprised. You know, it's really strange. I was speaking to my 18-year-old daughter around the time of when Sarah Everard sadly passed away. It's even her generation, nothing has changed. Like when I was at school and you were always taught to like never wear any kind of heels, so that if someone could hear that it was just one person on their own. You're in this heightened state of anxiety as a woman, I feel,
Absolutely.
constantly, and we always have to think about so many things compared to a lot of men. And I
Yeah.
think that's just the way that it's been conditioned to us. And to hear my daughter say the exact same things and she feels exactly the same,
Yeah.
not a thing has changed in a generation. And it's like, unless people obviously like you guys are standing up and saying, actually, no, this isn't to be accepted. We
Yeah.
need to talk about it. We need to do something about it. It's,
Yeah.
I just think it's so wrong, the fact that we're teaching our children, you need to do this, that, and the other, when why aren't we teaching our sons?
Don't rape and
Yeah,
murder.
exactly.
Yeah. It really, I had a conversation with my boyfriend about it, and I said I remember a policeman coming into my school and telling us never wear your hair in a ponytail, never have your headphones in, like carry your keys in your hand, like stuff like as a teenager being taught this and being taught the world is terrifying and men are out to get you. That was the basis of what I was taught. And I remember talking to my partner and be like, were you ever taught like don't rape and murder or don't intimidate women? And he was like, well, no.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, why am I taught then how to protect myself against scary predator men? Like, it's really horrific. And like, even stuff like, I could say I mention my dog quite a lot in my life, but my dog, she's quite active and she's quite sociable and she loves people. When my PTSD is bad, I can't walk her. And during COVID, my boyfriend bought me a rape alarm because I was so terrified to leave my house because I got used to not seeing people, that when I saw people, my PTSD levels were through the roof. Even if it was just like someone walking their dog down the street, I was terrified. And I was like, why
the
does this
thoughts that go on in our heads, isn't it? It's like, oh my
crazy?
God, is he getting closer? Like, shall I walk faster? It's a constant thing.
Yeah,
And then especially like you say with PTSD, it just makes everything 10 times worse.
absolutely. You catastrophize everything. Like my brain goes to, he's got a gun, he's got a knife, or he's coming for me. Like, and this horrific thing is, I used to, as a teenager, be able to kind of go, that doesn't really happen, or like, and now as an adult with experience of it, I go, but it does happen. I've been attacked on a bus and I have been held at gunpoint. How is that okay? And I have friends who have been sexually abused in public. It has happened. I know people personally, and we hear in the story terrible things. I mean, unfortunately, like most recent, Zara, who was killed walking home again. Why are we hearing about it constantly? It's not okay that it's happening. And
that's
why?
just the things that we're hearing about,
Exactly.
not all of it's reported, is it?
Which is horrific. And then you hear people go, oh, but she was doing this. No. She could be walking the streets in nipple tassels, like doing whatever she wants, because she has the right to do that. Everyone has the right to whatever they want, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. That does not mean that she should be catcalled, raped, murdered, bullied.
And no still means no, regardless of what someone's wearing or how they're acting. A no is a no.
Absolutely. Me and my boyfriend had a conversation a few weeks ago because I was in Hyde Park with a friend, and not that it matters, but we were fully dressed. Like, we were just sat, I was literally in like a trouser suit, chilling in Hyde Park, middle of the day. And a guy, we noticed him getting closer and closer, and we were both just kind of like doing the typical thing girls do, just being like, are you aware? I'm aware. Cool, we're carrying on conversation, but we're just aware. Like making sure our phones are next to us and being like, okay, fine. My friend went to the bathroom and he instantly beelined for me. And I was oh God, here we go. And he started trying to chat me up. And I was like, at first he was quite polite. And I was like, hi, really sorry. Like, I'm not interested. I'm just here with my friend. Like, we're just trying to have a nice day. Instant switch, was calling me all names under the sun, calling me ugly, calling me fat. And I was like, I was stay calm, because that's what we're taught to do. I wanted to tell him where to shove it, but I was like, I'm really sorry you feel that way. Like, please leave me alone. I even did the whole pretending my mum called me. I was like, please leave me alone. And it was getting worse and worse. In the end, I turned around and said the one sentence I hate saying of, I'm sorry, but I've got a boyfriend. Left me alone. Walked away. And I said to my partner, I was like, why? Because I'm owned by another man, do you then respect that other man? You don't respect me. You respect the fact that I have ownership already. And I hate the sentence of going, sorry, I've got a boyfriend. No, I don't have to be interested in you catcalling me or talking to
But
me.
I want you to piss off.
Absolutely. Just because I have a boyfriend doesn't mean anything. Like, leave me alone should be enough. And
Scared.
it's horrific. And like, obviously, if it's going to get you out of a situation and it's going to make you safe, of course, say it. But I hate the fact that you respect another man, you don't respect me as a person. To leave me alone, to bugger off. Like,
were you in a situation, were you worried like how long your friend was taking, or?
yes, I very much was on my phone texting being like, can you hurry up? But at the same time I'm going, well, as soon as she comes back, he's probably going to do it to both of us. Like, and there were so many people around, like,
and no one noticed this. Isn't it weird how we notice and we're aware of an impending situation, yet when something's happening not a lot of people step in?
It's very interesting. I was attacked on a bus years 2012, I want to say. I was brunette then, and God, it was years ago. And I was coming back from, I was in a musical and I was coming back from a show, and a guy got on a bus and started kicking me in the head.
My God.
I passed out, don't remember anything. The bus stopped, ambulance and police were called, and it turns out he was mentally ill. And he didn't like the colour of my jeans. That was his reason. I was left with a fractured cheekbone, dislocated jaw, 2 black eyes, and concussion. And terrified for life for getting on buses. I don't get on past a certain point. I'm not getting on a bus. And if I do get on a bus, I'm sat right at the front. Like, that is kind of the only way I can get on a bus because of this incident. No one did anything. It was a full bus of people and no one did a single thing. No one got him off me. No, he was a big guy. I remember speaking to a friend of mine who was on the bus, and she said to me he was saying he had a knife. And I was like, because I don't remember anything. I remember him getting on the bus. I remember him running towards me, and the next thing I know, I've woken up and there's an ambulance taking my blood. That's all I know. And my friend saying to me that she was convinced I was going to turn my head and have no teeth and like completely gone. Luckily, like, it was just my cheekbone and my jaw. I still have problems with my jaw now because of it. But no one on that bus helped.
Convicted?
Sorry?
Was he convicted?
Not that I know of.
Oh my God.
Nothing. I never heard a single thing apart from the police report that I got sent. There was nothing.
Oh my God. That's horrific.
It was the same with the gun attack. Nothing happened.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I, to be honest, stopped contacting the police because they weren't getting back to me. After I did a lineup and I did a false positive on the guy. But to be honest, and this is something I've learned with PTSD through therapy, is I remember bits of the incident. I remember bits of it happening and bits of it after. And some bits I'm like, I don't know if I remember that or whether that's just what I've been told. Or and like when I think back to the incident, I see it happening rather than it being me. I'm witnessing it happen. And bits are very foggy, very blurry. Which again, through PTSD, I've learned that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, it's your brain's way of shutting things out.
And it will be different things. Like, I'll tell the story one day and go, oh God, I didn't even know I remembered that. And then another day I'll be like, did that, like, was it that street? Was it then? And I know it's a fact, but it's just how my brain works. And things with PTSD is I very much, as soon as it happened, my brain could not comprehend it. My phone call to 999, the woman was literally like, you need to sit down and have a cup of tea. And I was like, I'm really sorry, I've got to go to work, I'm on my way to work, I need you to get the police over here now so I can go to work. Like, if I don't go to the gig, I don't get paid. And she was like, you've just been held at gunpoint, can you, is there anyone around? I was like, oh God, like, stop pandering to me, I'm fine. And it wasn't until like a few weeks later that it hit me. But when I went and did the lineup, I literally walked into the room and I was like, I couldn't, if I hadn't reported it, I would think I dreamt it. Like, I don't remember it at this point. So when I did the lineup, I literally looked at 5 guys' faces and was like, not clue. So unfortunately, it was a false positive, and nothing came of it.
That is insane.
Yeah, even though so when I called 999 and the policeman got to me, he told me the reason it took so long was because as they drove to me, they caught the guy pulling the gun on someone else and they arrested him then and there. Randomly, the guy he'd pulled the gun on found me on Twitter and messaged me saying, "Thank you so much for calling 999. You've saved my life."
God.
Yeah. I later found out that guy didn't turn up to the lineup. I don't know why. I'm not in any contact with him. So I don't know, but they caught him with the gun and nothing, as far as I know, happened.
Oh my God, that is insane.
Yeah, it's been
Do you think the guy was frightened to maybe go ahead with it?
yeah,
If it was it someone local or was it random
yeah,
or
he was local. And I later found out from the policeman, that the detective who came to my house, that where I was living was basically, I had no idea, but the road I was on was kind of, they called it the warpath because there was two
right,
rival gangs on either side.
right.
And the police were like, we're aware of them, we know who they are, we know everything, we know exactly what this was,
Yeah.
but you need to just move.
Oh my
um,
God.
Literally the advice the detective gave me was pack your bags now and get out. And I was like, this is, you know who these people are, you know what's happening, like. And he said to me, like, this happens a lot more than you think. And I remember being like, that's nuts. Whereas if you Google my situation, you will find nothing about it, apart from most recently because I speak about it. Like, there's nothing ever came of it. There's no police reports, there's no nothing. Like, my neighbors who I was good friends with didn't even know what happened.
Oh
So
my God.
it's terrifying. And it's something
So
that
it's like a wall of silence almost,
yeah,
isn't it? Just the same as every other like violent thing, isn't it?
absolutely. It's like if we don't talk about it, it didn't happen, and we don't
Yeah.
need to do anything about it. And like, even talking to the policeman, he was so lovely, but he was very much like, this happens.
Just one of them things
Yeah,
almost.
and he was like, you're one of the luckiest people I've ever met. And I was like, well, I don't feel very lucky. I feel very unsafe and very let down. But
Very traumatized.
yeah, it's been a ride with
Mhm.
PTSD. Like, I didn't get diagnosed till 2 years after the incident. Um, Mainly because it didn't show up. I carried on with my life. I was touring. I was in a musical at the time. I was touring the UK, and then I went to the Emirates on a different job. Came back and instantly got into another tour. And it wasn't until during that tour I started having physical problems like panic attacks, and I lost my voice. And I'm a singer, so I can't, that doesn't help. And I had no idea why. Like, I had cameras down my throat and they couldn't find anything. They were like, you are healthy, you're very healthy.
Just come out of the blue, or was there
Just
something in particular that you can pinpoint that made that
literally,
change?
I got a tour. I was doing a Spice Girls musical, and
Oh,
it was really good fun. It was like touring huge venues around the UK with like great girls and guys. It was an incredible show. And literally, I just started the tour and was like, my voice is really struggling. Why? Like, I've never struggled vocally. Um,
mhm.
at the musical I was on previously, we went out every night. Like, we were like party animals, like early
Yeah.
20s, like just living our best lives. And I never even cracked. And I was like, I don't, okay, maybe something's wrong. So obviously I had like
Mhm.
camera down my throat, and I was like, it hurts to sing. And
Yeah.
occasionally I wake up and my voice is gone. Um,
My gosh.
and I ended up seeing an incredible vocal coach, a guy called Stephen Walker, who love him to death. And he said to me, it's not a physical problem. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, this is mental. This is something in your brain telling your voice. And I was like, got a bit arsy with him and was just like,
What are you
what?
talking about?
Yeah. And he set me up with a friend of his who's a therapist. And I was like, I don't need therapy. Like, I'm fine.
Mhm.
Went to this therapist, and everything kind of came out about the gun attack, about all these things that happened to me. And I got diagnosed with PTSD. And the
Yeah.
second I got diagnosed with it and started all the meditation, the breathing exercises, and therapy, my voice came straight back.
Wow.
And basically, what we've found is, because with PTSD, you're in a constant state of panic,
Mhm.
and especially undiagnosed PTSD, and you don't know what it
Yeah.
is, So what was happening was I was having panic attacks constantly without even realizing, just thinking that was me. Like my heart's just racing, or I've just been a bit sick today, or like I'm panicky for no reason. That's just my personality, or I've had too much coffee. And actually it was a panic attack. And because of that, my voice was knackered because the muscles all around my voice go into fight or flight mode and were just basically destroying everything and making me it was like being, if you're like tense for an hour, your muscles are going to be exhausted. Well, that was the same with my vocal cords. Like my muscles around my neck were tense all the time, and the second I started dealing with breathing, it just all came back. But with this knowledge that you suffer with anxiety and PTSD, and that's totally normal after what I've been through.
I don't know if you're into that kind of thing or if you're into like spiritualism or anything, but as soon as you were saying that, I just thought of your throat chakra.
Yeah.
So like that was blocked and you were unable, because there was maybe so many things you were unable to say, so many things you were unable to vocalize. It's almost like that was blocked and that was stopping it in a physical sense.
And I 100% agree with you. I did I went on a yoga retreat years ago. After the diagnosis of PTSD, I went away for a week. And I remember doing this a particular throat chakra kind of specific yoga that I didn't really understand anything about it. And there was one particular move she did, and I burst out crying from doing it. And afterwards, me and her had a conversation, and I was just like, I feel such a release that I've never felt. And it kind of made me go, I'm done with being silent. I'm done with pretending I'm fine and pretending I'm okay. Like I am the queen of I'm fine. I don't like talking about my problems. I don't like talking about my experiences. Even the gun attack, I used to joke about it. And if people asked, I'd just be like, oh yeah, I fight crime in London. I'm Batman. Like, and just joke it off and then like change subject. Yeah. And actually, since doing the podcast with Farah, since speaking my truth, since like I go into schools now with my music, and I sing a couple of songs and I talk to kids about mental health and why as a teenager it is so important to register mental health and register that emotions are ripe and hormones are going mad. And sometimes we need to take control of that. And without getting help, I don't necessarily know where I'd be right now in my life or if I would even still be here, because I was in such a dark place that I just assumed that was who I was.
Kind of lived with it without question.
Yeah. And since being more open, since saying what I want in life and being okay with that, I have never felt healthier, happier. Things are happening for me in my career. And if I have a rough day, like I had a meeting cancelled the other day that was quite big. And usually I'd go, oh my God. And instead I just went, okay, that's a shame. But what else?
Another day. Yeah.
Let's move
what
on
else is coming?
Let's message somebody else, or okay, do you know what, it's fine. And I think that is really important, that we kind of sometimes stop comparing ourselves to others, check in with ourselves and go, are you okay?
Yeah,
it's fine.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, Natalie, cool. I could talk to you all day, honestly.
I'm so sorry. I've literally been talking your ear off, right?
No, not at all. So what's your if you could pick one thing like over the years, what's been your highlight so far?
I've got two, and one's really recent, but when I did O'Meara a few months ago, I looked out into the crowd and there was a guy who knew every single word to every one of my songs, and I just started crying. Like literally, like I carried on singing. I'm a professional, but I was crying, and I was like, "Oh my God! Like you know who I am," and that was really great. And I guess it was kind of the same with Penn the other week. Like my band were just amazing and it was so fun and brilliant. So that's been kind of like my career highlight.
Yeah.
To be honest, a woman in particular, I mentioned this earlier, but came up to me at Penn Fest. I was with my family and she came up and she just shook my hand and she just said, "Thank you." And I was like, "Oh, do I know you?" And she was just like, "I'm a huge fan of yours. Fire resonated with me, like my song, which is about abuse." She was like, "Thank you for making me feel less ashamed of who I am." And I literally stood there with my whole family, and like my best mates were pouring Prosecco, and I was just like, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. In this festival, in front of everyone watching the Hoosiers, I'm gonna cry. And she walked away, and like, if she's listening to this, like, you honestly, you've made my life, because if I can just help one person through my experience, so that's been like that was a huge highlight for me.
Wow. Oh, we'll have to like put some kind of like Twitter or Facebook thing out and find out who this woman is. Send her a bunch of flowers.
It's really lovely. Like, I do still, when like I'll turn on the radio and like know that my song's being played, that's still a huge thing for me. Like, Scott Mills, who I'm obsessed with, said my name on the radio, and I screamed so loud. Like,
and you hit over 1 million downloads as well, let's not forget. That's another huge milestone.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And again, these are things you take for granted, and I don't give myself enough like, I did that, like, I am an independent artist and I did that. Instead I go, yeah, but what you gonna do next? So I still have like videos that I haven't put on social media that just for me, of stuff like Scott Mills saying my name, or like the moment I found out that like one of my songs was playlisted at a David Lloyd gym, and things like that I go,
wow.
Like, whenever I'm having a bad day and I think like, is anyone going to remember you? Have you made enough noise? I'll look back at those videos and be like, you did good though. So yeah.
I don't want you to ever feel that way. Like, the stuff that you're doing is absolutely incredible, but not only with your music, with the way that you're talking openly, because it's bloody brave to share your story. And especially because, like you say, that wasn't who you were, to be really open, and you were always joking and laughing things off. So to turn that around in order to help other people, I think is absolutely incredible.
It's hard. And I think like, if anyone does go away and listen to my podcast, we did an episode, we talked to this amazing lady, Sarah, who runs a lesbian music festival, which I headlined a few months ago, and that's where I met her, and we had a lovely little chat. And she came on the podcast to talk about the effects of the aftermath of abuse, and that's something that I'm really passionate with talking about, because I've been with my partner now for 3 years, and he's my first kind of big relationship in like 7 years, and there's still times when things will happen and I go, oh my god, okay, like, I'm freaking out now because of my own insecurities. Like, am I allowed to tell you I don't want to go see that at the cinema? Am I allowed to say this, say that? And he'll just be like, yeah, what do you mean you're not allowed? And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, like, this is a different relationship. And it's those moments that like with Farah we chat about, and I go, no, I'm not crazy, I've learned a different way, and like
behavior, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is okay to like be pissed off, and it is okay to have an argument, and it is okay to have disagreements. Like, that is normal. But the way I've been programmed was very much that wasn't normal, and that wasn't okay, and actually like, that's punishable.
So
it's very strange now. Like, obviously my boyfriend's very patient, he's great, but there will be days when I'm just like, okay, so this is real good love. Like, something I talk about on the podcast is we're a partnership, been together 3 years, we're getting a house together, and wherever. Financially, I get scared when I use the joint account, because I'll be like, does that mean you control me? And it's like, no, it's a partnership and we're supporting each other. And I've done the same back, and it's those things that you go, well, actually no, that's normal, and these are things we need to talk about, because it's all well and good talking about leaving or
actual story,
but the effects of your mental health afterwards are the things you learn, you don't even realize you're learning. Even when I was at drama school, like, the things I learned at Italia Conti that are not correct and not right, even how I talk to myself sometimes, I have to stop and go, no, that's a learned behavior that you need to unlearn. You need to call yourself out on it and be like, no, be kind to yourself, like, come on. And it's definitely things that people need to talk about.
And I think it's also important to talk about after being in an abusive relationship. It's about, you probably have to re-find yourself, because you don't really know who you truly are if you've been under the control of another person for so long and kind of molded yourself into the way that they've wanted you to be.
Absolutely. Like my kind of thing was very much like I didn't believe I was worth love. And so I was single for a very long time.
Yeah.
Not, and it's really strange that when I talk about it, because it wasn't like a, oh, woe is me. It was literally like a, love isn't on my cards, but music and successes. So I'm just going to put all my like beans and everything into that because I'm not worthy of love. And even like my friends would say, like, I was never on a dating app. I've never done like random dates or something because I just wasn't, my brain had
I
learned.
told you already.
Yeah, and it's the acceptation of it. Acceptation? Oh God, that's a hard word to say. Acceptance of thinking I wasn't good enough for love.
Yeah.
So unlearning that and realizing, because I wasn't even like I said, it wasn't woe is me, like, oh, I'm not worthy of it. I literally was just like, that's a fact. That's just a fact.
It's
I
been
learned.
drilled into you for so long, you'd believed it yourself.
Absolutely. So like when me and my partner got together, for a long time, I was like, why are you with me? I don't, what's physically wrong with you that you are with me? And there's still moments when I go like, oh, I don't understand why you love me. And then you have to remind yourself who you are, put your big girl pants on and be like, actually, I'm a freaking catch. And it's just those things of just relearning that we all need to talk about, and we need to speak about the power we give others on our own worth.
Yeah. And it's about finding that power within ourselves, isn't it,
Absolutely.
really?
And accepting who you are. And I always say, like, as long as you're happy with who you are, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to compare yourself to others. You don't have to validate yourself by someone else. Like, as long as you're chill on just being you, that's great.
I mean, especially from your personal point of view, Natalie, it seems like you've spent a big majority part of your life trying to and feeling like you can't be yourself. So it's almost like you're a bird, like flying for the first time.
I very much feel that way with my hair.
Okay.
A few people said to me about my hair is usually like, I mean, it's very greasy. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't look greasy at all.
That's why the hat's on. But usually, like I have, like my hair is like it's bright red and then it's orange, and I usually wear extensions. Shh, don't tell anyone. And I have this really big hair, and I kind of do it as a point, and I guess I hadn't even realized I was doing it as a point, but I was so sick of fitting into a box, being shy, being timid, being a little mouse, that I was like, I'm gonna dye my hair the brightest color I can find.
I'm gonna have it the biggest I can do it.
And like literally, like I want people to be like, oh God, that girl with the red hair. Absolutely. 100%.
Here I am.
Yeah, and that's kind of like my little nod occasionally to just being like, you're weird and funny and it's great. And I love that. I love being a bit weird. I love just being a bit abnormal. And even if someone's like, oh God, I can't stand that girl with the red hair, they know who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, you've got an opinion on me. That means I'm doing something right.
That means you've noticed me.
Absolutely. Like even like my aunt, I mean, she passed away a few years ago to cancer, but she was a huge kind of person in my life who very much was like, I don't know anyone else like you. And she would rip me constantly. Like I'd walk in the house with like a onesie on or like the weirdest dungarees, and she'd be like, what the hell are you wearing? And I'm like, this is me.
And again,
like, so for her funeral, I actually dyed my hair a neon orange.
Did you?
I'll never forget. I walked in, like my uncle, who was like, we were all crying. It was horrific, but he literally just looked at me and went, "What the fuck do you look like?" And I was like, she would appreciate that.
Everyone dressed in black and you like walking.
Like if the lights go out, I'm glowing.
Yeah, but you made everyone remember that day in a positive way.
And that's kind of how I am with my life. Is like I want, if I like bright colors, I like to stand out. I like to be a bit different. And if me looking a bit weird, if that can help someone else go, actually, who cares what anyone thinks of you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Natalie, what is next for you? What is on the cards? What's the goal?
God, the question. Obviously world domination is the goal, obviously.
Yeah,
but we've just finished my next single.
Okay. Are you allowed to tell me what it's called?
Yes, it's called Fallen into Dreaming. And it's a song about the first couple weeks of a new relationship.
Okay.
That bubblegum feeling of like, I don't remember a time without you being on my brain. And like there's a line in it about like not being able to concentrate on anything and just like, what is this? It's amazing. And the song is beyond 80s cheese. Like I
like a bit of 80s cheese.
Yeah, we wrote it, me and a really good friend of mine, Jack, who's been along the whole roller coaster of this with me and writes all of my music with me. Absolute legend. Don't know why he puts up with me, like my crazy ideas. I do. I usually bribe him with Percy pigs. But we wrote this song
for M&S there.
Absolutely. Love me a Percy pig. Obsessed. The second I started selling them at Costa, I was like, oh no, I'm screwed. But we wanted to write a song that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And we wrote Falling Into Dreaming because, and even when I talk about it, I get a massive smile on my face.
Beaming.
It's so cheese. And it's like, when I got the final mix back, I literally played it I just got to my boyfriend because he's on tour at the moment. So okay. I went and stayed with him. He was in Hull, and I drove all the way to Hull, and I literally hadn't seen him in about 3 weeks, and just put my laptop down and went, listen to this song.
Yeah. Hi, like, by the way.
Yeah, literally, hi, how was the show? Don't care. Here's my song. And I played the song, and he was just wetting himself laughing because I was just dancing around the room like an absolute lunatic. And he was like, this is hilarious. And I was like, that's what I want people to feel. I want people to listen to the song, feel like they're back in like the Breakfast Club or like they're Molly Ringwald, like with their hairbrush.
Yeah.
It's just a fun, dreamy song.
Like butterflies in your stomach, that kind of song.
Yeah, and just like, it's just fun. We've gone completely over the top with all the cheese, and that's what we wanted.
It's gorgonzola.
Yeah, oh my god, there's just brie everywhere. Like, to be honest, I mean, I played it to a few people who are in the industry, and they were like, "Oh, it's not very commercial," and like all that. And I was like, do you know what?
I don't care.
I love it. I'm so proud of it, and I'm so happy. And like, I want to listen to it. I want to listen to it, and that's what
I want to listen to it.
I'll send you a sneak preview.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, that should be coming out in September. We're just waiting for the release date officially to come through.
Yeah.
So that'll be out in September. And yeah, I'm just going to be gigging it with my band, trying to get on a support tour. The current dream. And if anyone's listening that can help me here, I'm obsessed with the 1975. Obsessed. Okay. And they are going to be touring at the end of the year.
Okay. So
I'm putting it out there that I feel like me and my band would be a great support for them.
Okay. The 1975. Let's tag the shit out of them when this goes out.
Absolutely, that is the dream goal. But if I don't get to, I will definitely be there watching them. Amazing.
Yeah, in the crowd.
Yeah, pretending I support them. So yeah, the kind of plan is just to release a song, probably get a little video done with it, get some radio play, tour it, and then on to the next. Just I love making music, and I make music with some amazing people like Jack, who is my co-writer and producer. He's one of my best mates. So it's fun, like sessions
fun and comfortable, and you just know that you can be yourself and magic happens.
And also he'll tell me if something's rubbish.
Okay.
And I think that's really important, like in the industry. Like I'll come to him with a song and I'm like, do you like this? And he's like, and I'm like, great, okay, that's an opinion. Like rather than like, he's not a yes person. He's literally just like, if he likes it, he's gonna be like, yeah, and if he doesn't, he'll tell me. And like, we have a really great working relationship, so I'm very happy with it. Yeah,
you're just so passionate about what you do. Honestly, you can just feel it when you're talking.
It's fun, isn't it? Like I said earlier, we're not saving lives. I'm living my best life. Like I get to sing and write my own music, and I get to call myself a working musician, and that's the dream. That's all I've ever wanted, is just to make a career out of being me. And that's kind of
that's so wonderful. So what I'll do is I'll put all the information in the show notes, so everyone can go ahead and listen and find those videos on YouTube as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go have a little giggle at them. They're ridiculous.
Oh, Natalie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's been great. Thank you so much for letting me chat at you.
Oh no, not at all. We chatted together.
It's been great. Loved it.
Well, you take care, and I shall speak to you soon.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Bye.